Hey there, this is Matt from the Arbitrarian crew, here on behalf of Aaron and Isaac, and let's talk about our Sprint 2 finale or conclusion. So, to start with, we put a lot of emphasis on networking at the beginning of the sprint simply because we thought we had to include networking by the end, but turns out we didn't, and we hadn't learned enough by the time we were halfway through the sprint, so we ended up shifting off of that. However, with all this time that Isaac had put into networking, he has a really good base setup and a different file for networking, so we should be in a really good place for Sprint 3 to get that done a lot faster than the other teams who haven't had a chance to do as much networking. So that actually paid off in the end, and I think we'll be in a good place for Sprint 3. We also had our PlayStation integration and controller support and all that, and that went pretty well. The issue that we face, and I won't really be able to show a good build, and the build that's being sent in won't be great, simply because our build works way better on PlayStation. And one of our top priorities for next sprint is to get it so that if you're on PC, it'll run correctly on PC with the correct controls, and if you're on PlayStation, it'll run correctly on there. There's a lot of weird kinks we got to work out, of course. Everyone knows that there's a lot of strange things going on with building the PlayStation, so we just got to work through them. However, by the time we hit the presentation today, things went pretty well. We had a small glitch that happened in class, but we fixed that about 15 minutes after class ended, so worked out. And the game runs perfectly now for what we have. On to guns. I spent a fair amount of time reworking guns, about 8 points worth. And that did take a while, just because I had a very spiderwebby script type of thing. Speaking of scripts and their structure, a lot of our scripts have this issue. I think I should have put a little more emphasis on structure when I first began during Sprint 1, but I'm going to be taking probably the first week or next week of Sprint 3 to work on that and refine that so that we have an easier time by the end of the sprint. I implemented an update to the new sign waiver gun. The bullets explode at the end now. You'll see that. It's very fun. You can actually kill yourself with it. It's a good time. And then I added 2 other guns. The transformation gun, which is a gun that shoots 8 pellets, and then when those expire, it'll switch to a laser and shoot 1 high-powered laser that can take out half the health of an opponent. So it's a really interesting gun and fun to use. And then finally the Cool Pants gun, you saw that in class. It's just for fun, and it was very fun making. I animated that and all that. Then AI, I did a lot of fixes for them. They still have a few weird bugs that I haven't worked out, but for the most part, they're solid. They're not the smartest things in the world, but they aren't meant to be. They're just a supplement for when there's not a full 8 players. AI can now run an AMO and swap their weapons. They didn't do this before. They just kind of kept their guns on them when they died and all that stuff. It's kind of weird, so I fixed that. AI can now dodge roll, which is kind of cool. It's not the smartest thing in the world, but they do dodge, and they've purposely dodged bullets now. It's been very cool to see. Finally, local multiplayer. Aaron did a fair amount of work on this. We had controller support for there as well, because we had some weird issues with the controller working on the PlayStation with multiple players, but we worked that out pretty quickly, and then having a split screen together. I also did some back-end reworks for the game manager to get this all together and working, so did that last night. And then finally, we had a few miscellaneous things that kind of cropped up over the sprint, like UI reworks, fixing the main menu to work for the PS4, a lot of bug fixes with game startup and stuff like that, and a lot of fixes towards the end of the sprint. Asset sprite management was for some custom sprites we actually are working with someone on. We wanted to try something new, so we spent a little bit of money to get some custom sprites, and we're actually very proud of them. They look great. We worked with a guy we met online, and it's really paying off, and we can't wait to show them at the end of Sprint 3. We're kind of keeping them under wraps for now, but soon we'll show them off because they are fantastic. So finally, here's our chart. You'll see here, this is where the project started stacking up. This is kind of the first week after spring break, when all the senior project stuff for especially Isaac and I were stacking up, so we didn't get to work on it that much. And then this was over the last week. Things finally started going downhill, or uphill, I guess is the right word for that, and we finished it all just in time. So there's our points distribution and how fast it was all completed over time. You can see based on color when stuff was worked on and all that. So Yep, there's the gist of that. To show a quick video, I'm just going to do a single player showcase of just the player moving around. Again, there's not too much to see for the sprint because we did a lot of back end things. And then the PlayStation was kind of our biggest new feature. So pretty simple, same as it was before. We'll see if we get any of those special weapons. We'll look real quick. As you'll see, my player's not aiming. This is one of the consequences of the PlayStation build. It stopped us from aiming. There's a simple toggle for that. I have to go into the code to do that though, so it's no worry. I'm just keep giving a slight example. Here's our pellet gun. It shoots a few pellets. Once we reload, we'll shoot one laser, and I'm tuning all the weapons right now to get their speeds correct and all that, and we're going to have a lot of tuning coming up this next sprint, but then we go back to shooting regular pellets. So that's how that works. AI are dodging around and stuff, fighting each other. Yeah, so we're in a pretty good spot right now. By the way, I forgot to mention more map rooms were added. We're going to add a lot more for Sprint 3 with our new assets. We had a lot of cool things coming, so I'm excited to see what's going on in the next sprint. Thank you.